welcome to episode 193 of Board Game Blitz, a podcast about all things board games that you can listen to in less time than it takes to figure out what that error code on your printer actually means. Board Game Blitz is sponsored by Grey Fox Games. This week, we're talking about print and play games. First, we discuss a game we both played recently, Glitch Squad. Then, Ambie gives us a deep dive into the world of print and play games and why we should give them a try if we haven't. And now, here are your hosts,
Ambie
and Crystal.
Recently, we both got reviewed copies of Glitch Squad from Resonum Games. Glitch Squad is a 2023 game designed by Mary Flanagan and Max Seidman, published by Resonum, and it's a party game. A team word party game with communication limits, which is games that I like to talk about a lot. I like these types of games, team communication word games.
And we have spoken in the past about another, not similar game, but similar style of game from Resonum. Ambie and I are both really, really big fans of Phantom Inc., and that's made by the same company. And so when they reached out to us about Glitch Squad, my response was, yes. Something along those lines, like, yes. I want to play Glitch Squad.
Yeah, and it was on my want to play list from before because it's, word communication limit games. But anyways, the way Glitch Squad works is there's two teams and every person has their own password that they're trying to guess, and that's the goal of the game. But each round, you each have a different word that you're trying to, it's called an evidence, I think, that you're trying to give clues for your teammate to guess. And so everyone has their own evidence clue and they write it down, and they write down 3 clues for that evidence. And then they pass it to a member of the other team who looks at the 3 clues and then rewrites them but changes one of the clues.
They glitch it.
Yeah, they glitch it because the theme is there's a cat called Glitch who walks over the keyboard, I think.
Yeah.
And glitches the clues. Yeah, so there's going to be 2 clues that were originally for the word, and then 1 glitched clue that makes the guesser think of something else. And so then the guesser has 30 seconds or something. It's an hourglass timer. I'm not sure exactly how much time
it's 20 seconds, I think.
20 seconds, okay. 20 seconds to guess the evidence.
But they can guess multiple times, which is nice.
Yeah,
they can just throw out as many answers as they want.
Mm-hmm. But then you have a brain fart and you're I don't know. Then if they don't guess it, then the person who glitched the clue gets a point. And by a point, you means you get to, the actual password that you're trying to guess is broken up into columns of letters. And so you pull out one letter to look at, and you reveal one letter at a time. So when you get a point, you get to pull out one letter of your password. And then if you get the evidence right, you get to get a point. And but everyone's doing this at the same time. So everyone had a clue that they're giving words for, and everyone's glitching the person to the right's clue, and then the person to that left. You're passing it around, and then everyone guesses. So that's different from other games where it's a team coming up with clues together, or one person giving clues to a team. It's just one person giving clues to another person, but everyone's doing that at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't feel quite as collaborative as some team-based games. Yeah,
which is actually something that I don't like as much about it. So I played it at 7 players and 4 players. So at 7 players, at odd players, there's actually an extra roll added on because the teams have to be even. I forget what the roll is called, but it's like a troublemaker roll or something. But they glitch a card, and then they write down a word that they're trying to get the person to guess. And so they glitch it to try to make them guess a certain word. And if that person guesses that word instead of the evidence, or both, if they say it at any time during their guessing, then the troublemaker person gets a point. So that's kind of like trap words. I think it might be called
a little bit.
Word. Or taboo or something. But you're trying to get them to do the thing. So Toby played as that person when we had 7 players, and he was actually really good at it. So you win when everyone guesses their clue, but he ended up winning twice before any team got all of their clues right. Because he's also good at guessing the password after 2 letters come out, and he guesses it. And I'm like, what? How did she get that? But yeah, so that role seemed kind of easier, maybe, or either that or Toby's just really good at it, but it seemed like it was easier for that role to get points because it's easier to get people to guess something specific by glitching the words. But it's really fun to try to think of clues that can't be glitched. You want to think of clues so that any combination of 2 would get to the evidence that you're trying to get.
And the evidence is specific categories, so people aren't just trying to guess one random thing out in the universe. It's know that this evidence is a location. And so they do have some kind of context, which is obviously helpful, But like when I had, the thing I was trying to get somebody to guess was haunted house, I put down creaky, spooky, and I think I might have written ghost or something. But then, yeah, when it got glitched, I think it was easier to glitch certain clues than I realized right away. Because I was like, oh, if you remove this one word, you can turn it into something completely different, basically.
Yeah.
It's funny. You have to start thinking differently. It's a little bit like Decrypto in that you have to change how you're thinking about how to give clues. Because you can't just give 3 words that relate to the thing, because if you just do it that way, then you're potentially setting yourself up for failure. Like Ambie said, you need to give very good, detailed, specific clues that if any of the 3 get removed, the other 2 can hold the weight on their own. And as a glitcher, you're leaving 2 of them and trying to come up with a 3rd word that'll point somebody in a different direction. And that can be hard and also sometimes very easy, which it's fun when it's like, oh, I got this.
Yeah. And sometimes it can get kind of meta too. Like as the guesser, you're trying to think, okay, let's try, if it's these 2 clues, then what is it? It's like try to ignore one of the clues. But then as a glitcher, you're thinking, oh, maybe I can have them ignore this clue and then do a clue that relates to this other clue as the glitch, instead of trying to make it like think that all 3 are the glitch.
And to be clear, as the glitcher, you are rewriting all 3 clues. So there's no like, you don't have to worry about handwriting nothing like that to give it away. You're just looking at 3 words and trying to figure out. There are specific letters that you have to start one of the clues with. And so that can be interesting too, because technically, if you are the glitcher, you can glitch the word that started with a specific letter, and you do not have to start your word with that letter. But then it's obvious theoretically that was the glitched clue, depending on what the other words are.
But they don't know like which one it was, because they just know that something got glitched that started with that letter.
Yes, there are abilities in the game that will force the glitcher to either reveal what word they inserted or what word was removed, but you don't always get to know all of that information, and it's interesting how just knowing part of that information can sometimes be helpful and sometimes not.
Yeah, so you get that ability. If you fail to guess in the 20 seconds, you get one more guess after using that ability. That's called the forensic card. There was like a deck of them and it changes each round, but like they didn't have much variety in them. Like a few of them were just like, we got a couple of the same in a row and we're like, oh, okay, that was the same as last time. So we were like, oh, okay. A little disappointed in that. But I guess there's not much else you can have for clues anyway.
So I want to hear your thoughts, Ambie, about the differing password lengths that can be given to different people, theoretically. Because in the game, you pick a number at the beginning of the game, and everybody is utilizing that number on their sheet. And it was funny because when I first started going through the cards, I was like, oh, all the number 4s are, a similar length. But then I kept flipping through the cards and I was like, oh, no, they're not. So technically, you could end up with some people with like an 8 or 9 letter password and some people with like a 5 or 6 letter password. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's different difficulties of passwords and also different difficulties of the evidence clues that you're getting, I think. I didn't notice the password difficulty as much as the evidence, because like the evidence happens every round and the password is like your final thing that you're guessing. So I thought both of those were unfair. Because like sometimes there were like easy clues. It's like hobby, right? So like a hobby, you're like, oh, okay, gaming or something. But then one of them was like coaching for a hobby. And it's like, you think of that as a profession, not really a hobby. But then,
or I guess if you're like coaching your kid's little league team, that could be considered a hobby. But I've never thought of that as like a hobby. Yeah.
And then like for a weapon, there was snake for one of them. And so like this person was guessing like venom or like blah, blah, and they never guessed snake because that's not really what you think of when they're thinking in the category.
That is not what you think of. Although if I came toward you whipping a snake around, I bet you would consider that to be a weapon. So it's all in the context, right?
Yeah, but and then like some of the professions were just like really hard to guess because it's like something you wouldn't really guess. Like we had naturalist, and then like other people get like doctor or something. So yeah, like the difference in difficulties of the evidence was kind of tough because like the first time, I think I got dentist first and then orthodontist the next like round, which I was like, what? And so, but then like other people would get really easy ones, and it's like, okay, that doesn't seem fair. So we didn't like that.
Yeah, there is a bit of potential unbalance to the types of things that exist in the game, but those aren't delineated by different decks. They're all kind of just mixed together. So it can be a little bit of a random bag as far as how hard the different evidence things are to guess.
But I did like thinking of the clues to glitch and glitching the clues. That was fun. What player count did you play it at?
I only played it at smaller player counts with like 4 people. So I didn't get to play with a larger group, but I think it still probably functions about the same with a larger group, right? It's just different. It's just more people having to guess their stuff.
Yeah, I liked it better at smaller player count because I didn't like that everyone has to guess their stuff. Like the round where you're writing clues and stuff, that's all the same. But then when everyone's guessing, it's just one at a time. So it takes a lot longer with more people and you're just like waiting for them to go.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. So yeah. Because even though it's only 20 seconds, that does add up, right?
Yeah. And it's 20 seconds plus also like the extra guess if they get it wrong. And then that adds up and it just like that downtime in a team word guessing party game, like I don't like that as much. So I liked it better at the smaller player counts. But I think I would like it more if it were like multiple people coming up with the clues still, because like I like coming up with things more team collaboratively than or multiple people glitching. That's what, right? Like one person comes up with if the other team like collaboratively glitched it, I thought that would be cool. And then like
it's funny, I did not dislike this game, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to.
Same here.
Like it kind of bummed me out because I really love the concept of this. Admittedly, the theme for me is not there at all. It's kind of similar to something like Codenames or Decrypto, where it's like, no, the theme is not there, but that's fine for a party game. I don't mind that. But yeah, it was not as enjoyable as I wanted it to be, but I feel like there are the inklings of something really magical here. And obviously, no shade to the designers or the publisher. There's something good in this box, but it's just not exactly what I was looking for. I think for me personally, I might actually try and kind of twist or house rule it a little bit, because I do think it would be possibly more interesting to have some more of a collaborative effort with the whole team, or to have different people glitching the same set of words even, and see like, have everybody on the team trying to guess the same type of thing, but maybe they see different glitches. I don't know. Like, I think that this is all just coming off the top of my head, and I am not a game designer like the lovely folks at Resonum, but for me personally, it just didn't quite get to where I was hoping it would, which was a bummer, because I do like the core mechanisms.
Yeah, same here. So that was Glitch Squad from Resonum. If you watch our YouTube channel, you might know that I, Ambie, have gotten into print and play games a little bit in the last couple of years. So today, for our thematic segment, we're going to talk about some print and play game beginner tips. I still consider myself a beginner, so just like talking about my journey and like any questions Crystal has, because Crystal does not do print and play games, right?
Right. I mean, I have print and played some games in the past, but very few, very infrequently, and more like in instances where like, oh, I was playing with you or with a group, and like I've done, rather than actually printing and playing them, I've more often than not like downloaded a digital PDF and played by marking it up digitally. An exception to that rule would be some of the roll and writes that were done for one of the Gen Cant contests. Like I actually made my own print and play game for one of those contests, and so obviously I definitely made that game because I had to make my own prototypes. And then friend of the show, Chris Michaud, moderator Chris of former podcast Flip the Table, I printed off his game Roll Estate and played that with my game group a number of times and really enjoyed that. And if y'all haven't played Roll Estate, it's fun. You should give it a shot, because I really still enjoy it.
Yeah, so when I started playing print and play, I've mostly only done free print and play games because I'm just like trying a bunch out and then making videos about them. There are a lot of roll and writes for print and play. So you mentioned, I think the ones you've done are all like roll and writes. A lot of those, it's just one sheet you can print out. It's very easy. Or just have it digitally. So you don't even need to print, you can just play, I guess.
Yeah, you just need dice generally. And I would say most of the people listening to this podcast probably have whatever dice you would need already on hand. Even if it's a bunch of D6s, you might have to grab them from multiple games theoretically. But, you know, a lot of people have a copy of Yahtzee laying around or a copy of something else that has a bunch of D6 in it. I mean, for us, we have Strike.
Yeah. But even if you don't, you can just have digital, Google throw dice or something.
That's true. It just, for me, that's not, it's not as satisfying. I will mark up a sheet digitally, but I want to roll my dice physically.
Yeah, but if you don't have it, that's impossible.
You still have options.
Yeah. But yes, print and play, one thing you kind of want to have is a printer.
Which is something I do not currently own, so it is hindering my ability to print and play games.
Yeah, there are you can go get it printed at Kinko's or something, or at your library, maybe they have printing stuff. I actually did that when my printer wasn't working well, but I got a new printer.
My friend Kathy, who listens to the show, hi Kathy, love you. She actually does a lot of print and play stuff, and she has run into issues at some of them, chain retail, printing services where she will have the files and they will, some of them, they'll not print something because they don't know if she has the rights to print it or whatever. Even if it's just printing it on regular paper for her own personal use, one copy, there are places where she has run into issues. So I wanted to say that out loud in case any of our listeners try to go that route. There is the possibility, even if you show them the BGG page, this is a free thing that anybody can download and print, you know, obviously your average Staples employee does not know what Board Game Geek is, and they might not understand. So I don't know if Staples allows this or not, but you may run into issues there if you go that route.
Yeah, but if you want to start printing and playing a lot, you'll probably want a printer. So yeah, supplies I've used now are a printer, laminator, a cutting tool. I mean, you can use scissors. I used scissors for a long time. Well, I still don't have a really good paper cutting thing, but some people use a rotary cutter and a ruler. A rotary cutter is a circle cutting tool.
It's a pizza cutter.
It looks like a pizza cutter. Yeah, it's a pizza cutter for paper. And then you use a ruler, and then you can cut straight lines. But that you have to have a lot of practice to be able to do that well. There's also paper cutters. It's not the guillotine type, because the guillotine type doesn't do it super accurately, but there's paper cutters that just slide across. Fiskars something, I don't know. There's something that's recommended that I kind of want to get, but it's a little expensive. And then a corner rounder if you start printing out lots of cards, which I have now. I have a corner rounder.
I know Kathy owns one of those. Punching. Yeah, because you don't realize how sharp those corners are until you don't have them rounded.
Yeah, and it also helps with lamination. So lamination, I didn't know this before, but you can laminate and then cut, and it should stay together. I used to think that the lamination was only on the laminate stuck to itself, on the edges of the paper when you laminate it, but it fuses to the paper kind of, I think, at least with hot lamination. So as long as it's laminated correctly and you don't have a really cheap laminator or it wasn't heated up, then it should stay on there. So you cut out cards after they're laminated and it should stay. But a corner rounder will help it stay better, because sometimes the corners can peel a little bit. But yeah, so I have those supplies. And I've started trying to make nicer looking cards and stuff. And I actually use some of these supplies outside of printing and playing board games. I used my corner rounder for a project I was helping with at preschool. They wanted to laminate pictures of the kids and then cut them out, and then I just rounded the corners too, because I'm I have this corner rounder. And it came out really nice. So if you like crafting other things, printers and laminators are really good. And printers can be really useful, especially if you have kids. I print out coloring pages for my kids all the time now.
I mean, that's got to be cheaper than buying coloring books, right?
Yeah. Actually, coloring books are pretty cheap, so I don't know. But I can print whatever they want, basically, for coloring pages. But yeah, so if you want to get into print and play, I have a beginner video that I made on how I print and play, which was back when I didn't care about how nice it looked. I was just cutting out paper and putting them in sleeves and stuff and just making a passably playable copy. And I have that on our YouTube channel. But if you want to get more into print and play, Martin Gonzalez is super into print and play, and he has YouTube tutorials, and he's tried a bunch of the different cutting things. And so he has recommendations on the best ones. He also has a Facebook group, Martin's Print and Play Hideaway. A bunch of print and play people are there, and it's very helpful. So you can find answers to all of your print and play questions there.
That's awesome. I love that this has kind of become more of a thing over time. And I guess I don't really know why that is, but I already own a laminator and a paper cutter. I just don't own a printer.
You do?
So I'm most of the way, because I have a laminator for my roll and write games, because that way I will never run out of sheets if if I were to run out, I can laminate and then use dry erase markers. So
laminators are useful outside of just print and play. Yeah.
It is indeed. Suze Sheldon was the one, I think, who encouraged, well, she didn't personally encourage me, but like her posts about laminating roll and writes were what got me to do it. And it was great pre-pandemic for when I was like traveling to cons more often, like putting roll and write games in my quiver or in my game bags, because instead of bringing giant pads of sheets, I could just bring, enough for the player count. And that was always going to be enough, basically. And that's obviously a lot better. It's easier.
Yeah.
So why, Ambie, why should I and our listeners print and play games? There's all these board games out there that we could just buy off the shelf and start playing. Why should we print and play games?
Well, there are a couple reasons you could print and play. Well, one is it could be cheaper if you have a printer and supplies and stuff. The thing is, like, it takes a lot of time, so that's a trade-off. But like a lot of these Kickstarters and board games and stuff, shipping can get really expensive, especially with like Kickstarters coming out. You don't know how much shipping is going to be, and if you live in a place where it's hard to ship to, shipping might be prohibitively expensive for you. So if they have a print and play tier or something, you can get that, and then you can get the game. If you have a printer at home, like, you can just print and play it yourself, and then you don't have to worry about shipping costs. So that makes it cheaper and more available for you to be able to play these games that like are otherwise very hard to get.
Well, and not just the expensive shipping, but like, what if you live in a country where that particular Kickstarter doesn't ship to? Like, that could be theoretically your only option to get that game up front. Obviously, there might be other means later on down the road, but if you really want to get it right away, and sometimes the print and play versions of games will get released before the physical games will even get shipped. So I guess doing the print and play version, you might actually be one of the first people to play the game out in the wild. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. And actually, before I got into doing like all these free print and play games, we print and played a couple of 18xx games, because that was back before they were getting more widely available. And so there were all these 18xx games that weren't in print. And so they had like free print and plays available for them. But like, that's a very big print and play project. Because there's a lot of things to cut out and stuff. And so like, we had a couple of 18xx games we had print and played. And so yeah, if a game is out of print and there's a print and play available, that's a way to get it. So yeah, a way to get a game that otherwise is not available to you, or you can save money. If you like crafting things, and it can be fun, it's a hobby. Like, a lot of the people in the Facebook group, they have these memes. It's like, oh, we just print and play, or print in games, and we're like, we don't actually play them. Like,
so it's the same as the people who buy games, put them on the shelf, and don't. It's just the collecting or the crafting, or like, in this instance.
Like painting minis as a hobby or something like that. Like, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, they like making the best game, and then
how do I get those people to print the games and make them for me? Because while I do enjoy certain forms of art and crafting, laminating and cutting things out is definitely not my jam. Like, that is tedious, and I do not enjoy it. So I need to get these people to print and play print and craft these games for me. That's what I need to have done.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what buying a game is.
I mean, technically. But if it's a print and play, like, if they could send it in like a manila envelope in the mail, like, that would still likely, I could, pay them, even if I paid them for their time and for the shipping, it would still probably be cheaper than some of the other ways to obtain some of those games.
Yeah, depending on the game.
Right, obviously.
But yeah, so those are the main reasons. Like, you don't really want to get into print and play if you don't like crafting. Like, you don't want to get super into it, because that's what it is. It's basically crafting arts and crafts making the game. And if you don't like that part, then it's a lot of time spent doing that. But like, if you do like that, which I like crafting and stuff, so I like making those when I do have the time. It's fun, relaxing. And it's also cool, like having the finished product and be like, oh, cool, look, I made it and it looks like a card. Like, this came out pretty neat.
Do you have a couple of print and play games that are your favorites, or like a couple that you would recommend to people if they're like, oh, this actually does sound kind of interesting, but I don't know what games like I should look up? Like, do you have any recommendations?
I do have a video on 5 print and play games that like I recommended.
So people have to go to our YouTube channel.
You can go check it out on YouTube. But like
the link will be in the show notes.
But one of my favorites is Black Sonata, which we talked about on the podcast before because it's also a published game. But like the print and play is the same as the published game. It's a little harder to do the print and play, but it does have instructions on like you print it like this and then you fold it over. So it's like good for beginner print and plays because you don't have to make it super fancy with like double-sided printing and laminating or whatever. It tells you like you print here and then you fold this here and that's how you make it double-sided. But then you have to do hole punch. That's the hard part. So
yeah, that one does require hole punching, but Kathy made the print and play version of Black Sonata and brought it over to my house years ago. And so I've played the actual print and play version of Black Sonata and I was very impressed. That game, like how it works, I was just like, wait, what? How? Like, it's so clever. Yeah, I really, really like Black Sonata. I would also recommend that one.
Yeah, that one's a solo deduction game. So if you like deduction games, that's what that. Another one is Under Falling Skies, which also has a published version. But this one, the free print and play is just called Under Falling Skies, a 9-card print and play. But it's like only the 9-card print and play version.
Under Falling Skies is so fun.
But yeah, that's like you're trying to like defeat these aliens by like placing dice down on your cards. But like the 9-card version is just 9 cards, so it's 1 page double-sided. If you don't want to like craft it nicely, you can just sleeve it.
Yeah, you can just print 2 pages and then stick them back to back in a sleeve or whatever.
But yeah, that's an easier craft than Black Sonata.
For sure. Well, Ambie, I think hopefully some of our listeners have now been like, oh, I think, maybe I should check this out. And if I do end up with my own printer at some point in the future, I think I will probably be more inclined to check out some print and play games. I don't do as much solo gaming as you do, but I think especially for the ones that can be played multiplayer, I definitely have seen some print and play games that I'm like, oh, I actually really do want to play that. So once I own a printer, I will probably be hitting you up again and be like, okay, what else do I need? Which ones do I need first? And so to our listeners, if you have print and played any games that you would recommend to myself or even to Ambie that you think she hasn't played, hit us up on social media or in our Discord. The link to our Discord is in the show notes. Come join us there for community game nights and lots of other fun stuff. We have a lot of lovely people in our community there, and we would love to see you there as well.
And that's it for this week's Board Game Blitz. Visit our website, boardgameblitz.com, for more content and links. This episode was sponsored by Gray Fox Games. You've heard us talk about it for years, but if you didn't back the campaign, you can now go online or to your friendly local game store to order your copy of Last Light, a 4X game that plays in under an hour, designed by a friend of the show, Roy Canaday. And if you want to buy games at grayfoxgames.com, you can get 10% off your entire order, including promos, exclusives, and upgrades not available anywhere else by using the code BGBLITZ2023 at checkout. Join the Blitzketeer community on Discord for game nights, discussions, and more by following the link in the show notes. Support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify. And if you like us a lot and want to support us monetarily and get some cool perks, check out our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/boardgameblitz today. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Morrow. Until next time, 'cause I'm bored and I'm listless, don't want no big rock star, my idea of success is in a fancy car, got a long list of my favorites, Cthulhu drives me insane, but I've got no blank shells, baby, so let's play a game. Bye everyone!
Bye! And there are hint, like, there are Kathy print and play, I can't say, it's like